close all the apps out, and I got cells up on my computer that I don't need.
You have cells up on your computer?
Yeah, animal cell, plant cell. I just closed them out. I was helping Crystal with homework.
We're live. What are you doing talking about that stuff, Nanette? We are live. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This is Wally.
And Nanette.
From Supreme Gecko. Thank you very much for joining us. We have a great show tonight. I don't know. It's just fun and it's tradition now.
No, tradition. Speaking of.
What if I bite your finger?
Well, then they'll see it on camera, won't they? Oh, check this out. Turn your head that way. Check out the haircut, guys. Can you believe it? Look at that.
My hair was longer than Nanette's.
Yes,
we went in there into the I want to say barbershop. It's a stylist, blah blah blah. Cost cutters. And the fellow looked at me and said, "Oh, I think your hair is longer than your wife's." I said, "Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool."
No, it's not. We
have a lot to get through tonight. This is going to be a fun show. We have Heather Cee, 503 Menagerie. If you've seen ISO Buddies podcast, I think a couple of years ago, Heather was on there and had a just fantastic show. I have a lot of questions for Heather. This is going to be fun. I've got a couple of things to talk about before we bring on our guests. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We have already Angie. Should I just read these off, or are you going to read them off?
Oh, I can read them off.
Okay.
Sorry. Katie's here. Teresa is here. Laura's here. Jennifer's here. Green Acres Exotics is here. Frank is here. Angie, hi. Let's see who else. I'm trying to get back up. Now my scrolling isn't working. 503 Menagerie is here.
What?
Cecilia's here.
We had that one time where somebody didn't show up for like 15 minutes.
You probably made him mad. Shane Bowman. I should really get a hold of a guest sometime and just tell him.
And just do that.
Don't just show up for a while and let's watch him panic.
Like an April 1st kind of joke. So I want to ask everybody,
JP
April 1st, did anybody get fooled on anything?
Yeah.
Did anybody see something and go, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy talk"? What did you see?
We had a social studies pop quiz. The kids were told it was 100 points. And they all worked through it. And at the end of the hour, the teacher came in and told them it was a joke and they weren't getting any point. It wasn't being graded at all. We had one girl get really mad and slam her computer shut. She was upset.
I think that's what I would do. I would throw my computer down on the ground.
It was hard for all of us because we were all knew what was happening. And we were
who got fooled with April 1st? The closest I came, and I went into the day kind of anticipating. We've all seen the, "Hey, I'm selling my collection. I'm getting out of reptiles." So Crazy Bugs and Pods, Corey and Amber.
Yes.
Amber posted, and it was so simple and it was just perfect. It wasn't this long diatribe. It was just, Corey and I are done. And she left it at that. It was like,
well, does that mean they're done, or did that mean the business was done?
What the way I took it was that she was done with Corey, which everybody's waiting for that day. I'm just kidding. Corey and Amber are just the greatest people.
You were bad,
and it was like, what the heck? This is out of the blue. Wait a minute. Yep, got me. Jennifer saying some dairy farmers I follow made posts about switching their herds out for a different breed of dairy cattle. I almost fell for it. I think sometimes on April 1st, we kind of read something and we kind of move forward. It kind of shocks us and then we move forward.
There was one on Facebook that I wish I'd had time to do, and it was taking an empty Dunkin' Donut box, putting it on your counter at work, and when they opened it up, it was vegetable trays.
Yeah, that would get me. See,
I just didn't have the time to do it.
Yeah, if you did that to me, I would take my computer and slam it against the floor.
What is with you and slamming things?
Who saw? We did a fun video. I'll be very honest, folks. It's been tough doing videos the last probably 2 months for me. It has to be right. It has to be something I want to do. And it just has seemed like the last couple of months like something I have to do. And I apologize for not putting out more long form content or short form content. But we came up with a video idea yesterday. We introduced scorpion tails And Crystal kind of took the ball and ran with it. It was super cool. But I tell you what, if you have or if you know about scorpion tail geckos, they are the coolest. So I hope everybody watches the video, enjoys it. We had a great time with that. What do you have? JP, I told my wife I was getting 5 new reptiles on April Fools. Now I have a bent saute pan. She kind of clocked you on that one.
Cecilia said, "How's your head?"
Yeah.
I told Crystal's, I shared the link to the YouTube with Crystal's science teacher today.
What did he say?
So he was going to watch it tonight.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
All excited.
And that's always fun to see somebody that's not into the geckos kind of looking at something like that and giving us.
He is highly impressed with Crystal and her knowledge.
I'm impressed with Crystal.
She took a bunch of sheds into school and they checked him out underneath the microscopes together, and he was pretty impressed with her knowledge.
It's going to be interesting to see where she goes with her interest with the geckos in the next 2 or 3 years. I could see it going either way. But I could also see it going the boys route, just like it did for our 3 boys with girls. It didn't take long. Buy me a coffee. I had scheduled a buy me coffee for the members, buy me coffee members last week, and we canceled that as well. We had a lot going on last week. Nothing major bad, just a lot going on. It seemed to compound on top of one thing after another, and it was just really difficult. So apologize for that. We'll have our Buy Me a Coffee membership video, our live stream next week. I'm not sure what day it will be, probably Friday. Hope you guys join us for that. It's always a blast. We have a lot that we go through on the Buy Me a Coffee. And if you are a Buy Me a Coffee member, hopefully you've seen Steph Reisberg with the small Europlatus, the little satanics, and wow. I had to trim down our interview so much, but we got it down to a couple of hours, and it is invaluable information. So that's my goal with Buy Me a Coffee, is to introduce these very specific videos to you guys first, and then later, sometime in the year, we'll push it to the public. But I just want that to get out to you guys so that you have the benefit of seeing these amazing interview videos. We have a lot scheduled in the next few weeks as well. And then what do we have going on downstairs, or just in general?
Well, we're getting ready for a show this weekend. We have to get that put together. I'm going to be swapping out a bunch of isopod bins next week probably. And when I play catch up, clean up some bins and change some stuff around, decide what I don't want down there anymore, and get rid of some, but kind of switch things around now that we're caught up a little bit.
So see us at the show Sunday, the Fond du Lac show me, or Scaled Up. I almost said show me, the Scaled Up Expo show Sunday.
I didn't remember where it was.
Sweet Spoods. Hi, thanks for joining us. Steph says I get long-winded. Steph, to be very honest, what I did was I took our 14 hours. No, it wasn't that long. But I took the time that we had the interview, and I pretty much took a lot of the stuff that I was talking about out just to save some time. I don't think I took anything that you said because it was invaluable. Invaluable. I tell you, this is what I really...
secret word?
Yeah, it is. It's a secret word. This is what I want to do. This kind of a video is what I want to do on Australian leaf tails, on Madagascar geckos, on Phelsuma. We're just going to keep adding to these because on banded geckos, Coleonyx, because I've talked to a lot of people that really have the knowledge, and we're going to bring them in for an interview and get into the details. Talking about getting into the details, let's get into the details with 503 Menagerie. I mentioned ISO Buddies, and it's so unfortunate that that Josh isn't doing ISO Buddies. But I tell you what, folks, it was fun watching his shows. One of my absolute favorite shows because it felt like I could just sit back and listen and grab a beer or a cold beverage.
Or your water.
My water.
Frank
and just grab something and just sit back and listen all night to Heather because it was such a good show. Frank wants to know what
your drink is today.
Well, let's go. Let's start with this. My fit is tarantulas of the world. And I do want to talk about this in just a second. And my drink is, I don't know, what is this? A Myers Crystal
Quencher.
Quenchers. I'm trying to talk too fast.
Squenchers.
Before we bring on Heather, let me slow down for 1 second. And now it's way long into the show, but I do want to mention tomorrow night is epic. The site is epic.live. Folks,
It's been on there a couple times.
we've talked about this, epic.live. This is bringing the community together with some very key speakers. I think there's 16 or 17 tracks. People like Flawless Crested Geckos, Brian with Altitude Exotics. Slow down. And just a great, thank you very, very much, Frank, for posting that. This is going to be a good show tomorrow. Don't miss it at all. It's a free show. If you do happen to miss it, I would be there live. I'm telling you, we will be. If you do miss it, they are recording it and you can watch it afterwards. Okay.
Can you still register tonight?
You can still register tonight. I talked to Craig and I said, Craig, please let them register tonight. And Craig said, Wally, if it were anybody else asking, I would allow everybody to, but no way.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he said, no way, Wally,
so
not with you. So epic.live. Without further ado, and I am going to slow down, Heather Cee from 503 Menagerie. Heather, how are you doing?
I'm awesome, Wally. Thank you. It's great to be here.
A half hour later, sorry about that long intro.
Nah, it's all good.
Distracted a little bit.
And just for the record, we did not text today and say, hey, are you going to wear your spider shirt? Because I'm going to wear my spider shirt.
Oh, I knew it.
My minds, apparently.
My spidey senses were tingling today, and I knew that you would wear your spider shirt.
They're saying walk away from the caffeine slowly. You'll be okay.
Maybe that's the thing. Okay, I'm going to put away the epic so that we can show off the spiders.
Yep.
Heather, I do this with everybody, kind of without getting into the hobby right away. Tell us about Heather. You have some, as Liam Neeson would say, you have some special skills.
I do.
And this is mind-blowing, and I admire this so much. I think of anybody in the hobby, this is so cool. Tell us about yourself. Your non-reptile invert arachnid hobbies. What do you do? Tell us a little bit on that side, and especially your career, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. I am a mom. I have 3 teenagers. I have an almost 19-year-old, I have a 17-year-old, and I have a 14-year-old. So they keep me pretty busy. And they are amazing. I'm very lucky. So that's kind of my first and foremost. I'm a mom. For my job, I'm actually a speech language pathologist. So nothing even remotely related to animals, but I do have kids that I work with who have animals. So it's a really awesome opportunity to kind of like make a connection between my kids. One of my favorite questions to ask when I'm doing evaluations with kids is, if you could have any pet in the world, anything you wanted, what would you have? Because that is a question that almost every child is going to have an answer. Mm-hmm. And it gives you, from my own selfish reasons, it's a really good speech sample, but it's really wonderful to hear some of the things that the kids have to say and their reasoning. And a lot of it is, it's going to be awesome because I can take care of it and I can watch it grow. And, just these, before they're kind of burdened by it would be expensive and it would be hard or whatever. If they can just the world is your oyster, what would you want? It's really awesome to kind of see that passion in kids. So yeah, I'm a speech language pathologist. I mostly work with middle and high school students.
Okay.
I love high school. It's funny. I worked with middle school students when my kids were middle school. Now I work with high school students. My kids are high school. I kind of have grown with me, but they are amazing. Amazing kids that I work with. I have a great team. I work at virtually for a high school up in Washington. So yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. SLP we have a great team of people around us. We've got OTs, we've got special education teachers, we have behavior therapists. We've got this awesome group of staff that's all kind of helping our kids succeed and do the best that they can, which can be tricky sometimes.
anybody that works with kids, it has to be the most rewarding thing in the world. On this balancing side, it has to be the most frustrating thing in the world. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. I just cannot imagine.
For me, it's never the kids that are the frustrating part. I
Mhm.
love the kids. I love the families. I honestly, I love my staff. I'm very, very blessed to work with a wonderful staff. Um, and the families are wonderful. The kids are wonderful. It's the paperwork. I mean, there's going to be something in every job. Paperwork's not really my thing. So, I work on it. I have a phenomenal assistant that works with me that she keeps me on track. She's very like, did you get your paperwork done? Did you do this? And I'm like, I need you to crack the whip for me because otherwise I'm not going to do it. Um, but yeah, it's really a great opportunity to teach, and I definitely use some of that in my that kind of research skills and stuff I use in my reptile keeping as well. You know.
Interesting. I want to come back to that. And I'm going to be 1,000% transparent and 1,000% honest with you. So I'll mention again, ISO Buddies, great show. Loved, loved, loved the way that you look at things, the way that you present yourself, the way that you look at things. But the second you mentioned speech pathology, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like, Heather, that I am the worst speaker in the world. And the reason for that is that, and I'm gonna, sure, I'll blame my mom and dad. It's my fault, but I'll blame my mom and dad. My mom was from deep Mississippi, and my father was from Michigan. So I think I blur that accent along with the Wisconsin kind of accent a
Yes.
little bit. And I feel like, you can probably understand me, but it probably takes you a little bit to go, oh. But then again, the unique thing is when you hear a little bit of our videos, it's like, oh, that's Wally talking, whether that's good or
Very
bad.
distinctive. Yes. I get accused of being from the Midwest quite frequently, which is very funny. I've lived out in Oregon for about 20 years. Actually a little bit, holy cow, a little bit longer than that now. I was believed that I was 5 years old when I moved out here. No, just kidding. I moved out here when I was about 20. Um, and so we'll say ish 20-ish years. And I still constantly am, oh, are you from Wisconsin? Are you from Minnesota? Are you? And I never thought that I had an accent until in my speech pathology class, one of our classes, we had to do an analysis, and we got a graph of all of our vowels and how we were, on like the pitch and everything. And everyone else's were boop, boop, boop. Mine were boop, boop, boop. And I'm like, dang it, they're right. I do have an accent. So
Wow.
yeah, it's hard to it's hard to deny it now. And it's pecan, Frank. You were asking how do you say pecan? It's pecan.
Pecan.
Is that official,
It's not pecan.
or can I not say like crappies because my mom is from the South? Can't I say that?
No.
Crappies.
It is
No, they're crappy.
dialect. As long as the communication is happening, it is effective. It is okay. That's where I'm at. I'm not a speech prescriptivist, but that's a whole different episode that has nothing to do with reptiles.
And again, being from the South, you would think that I would say pecans, but I say
Pecans.
pecans.
Yeah,
That's how
I don't
you're
know.
raised. Like,
And yeah,
yeah.
my mom grew up in Florida, so I have a little bit of the southern, and
Oh.
my grandma is from Kentucky, so I get these weird little phrases of speech. I'm from all over. It's a whole thing. So yeah, I don't know.
I still go back to a lot of the phrases that my mom says, and I find myself as I get older,
Mhm.
saying some of her phrases. I'm trying to think of like
Yes.
more issues than Carter has pills. Yeah,
Oh my
stuff like
gosh.
that.
I got don't just stand there with your teeth in your mouth was my grandma's favorite one. And I say that to my kids all the time. Don't just stand there with your teeth in your mouth. Where else would they be, Mom? It's like, I don't know. I didn't come up with it.
Outstanding. Pop soda. There
So,
you go.
yeah, soda pop. That's a weird one. If you go into dialects, that's just strange things. It's so funny. Yeah, I get soda. My dad says soda pop, and he grew up in Wisconsin, so I don't know. It's a
We grew up
mystery.
saying pop.
Yeah, pop.
That's
I
a
think so.
water bubbler or water
Bubbler.
fountain.
Yeah.
The
Bubbler
or
is
the
a
buff up.
Milwaukee thing.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
But the funny thing is, in Portland, where I'm outside of Portland,
Okay.
they have these things called Benson bubblers, and they're water fountains. And Benson was like I think he was like a logging guy who was part of the founding of the city. And so he built these kind of like, they're these beautiful brass kind of water fountains that are all over downtown, and they call them Benson bubblers. And so Portland is probably the only other place you can call it a bubbler and people will get it. So it was just destined. I was just destined to kind of come out here. They're still speaking my language, which works out well. There's
I
your
love
random Oregon fact for the episode. You're welcome, guys.
I love how you went about it, though, that as long as we can kind of know what we're all talking about, it works out.
Exactly.
I go the same way with gecko names and things like that. Is it, Underwoodosaurus meli? Is it
Exactly.
Nephurus? We're talking the same
it's a
language.
gecko.
Let's move
Exactly.
past
And if you're
the
into the
semantics.
Latin, you're already one step ahead of the people that are like, it's a banded gecko. Okay, which banded gecko? Or
Yeah.
tarantulas are even worse. Oh, it's a red-legged tarantula. Great. That could be any of 10 different species. So gonna need more detail. If you're in the Latin, no matter how you pronounce it, you're doing good, I think.
It's a skunk gecko. It's a striped
Exactly.
gecko. Ooh.
Just whatever.
What got you into? Can you go back that far? Can you go back to? I can't anymore. I can't go back to what started this whole obsession with keeping animals in the house. I guess I go back to my fishing days, and then I wanted to keep a bluegill in a tank, and it just went crazy. Can you go back to? Here's the moment I decided to keep something.
I have always loved animals. I mean, I had the typical like hamsters and stuff growing up. Um, we used to walk. I don't know how familiar you are. I grew up in Wauwatosa, so
Oh, yeah.
Milwaukee suburb. So Menominee River Parkway, which is like a park area, was about 5 minutes from my house. So we would walk the loop around the lagoon in Menominee River Parkway, and I used to catch frogs. I would bring a fishing net with me, and I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old. And every time I would go with my mom, I would catch a fishing net, and I would catch or grab a fishing net and catch frogs. And I don't even know what they were, bullfrogs, big frogs. And I would just look at them, and I'm like, this is really, really cool. And then admire them and then put them back. And I would see garter snakes, and I was really excited about that. Didn't bring anything home, but I've always loved reptiles and amphibians. I was telling Wally, I was telling you this before we got started. My first paycheck that I got from my first job when I was like 16 years old, I went to one of the big fish stores outside of Milwaukee and bought a 30-gallon aquarium and a bunch of fish. And I had that in my room for years. And now my son has that same tank with his gerbils in it. So we've had that for years. So really my whole life, I've loved animals. It didn't occur to me to like be full hyper focus on them until probably COVID was when I got like super. I had one snake before then. I had a ball python. We have dogs, but yeah, I had a ball python that we got kind of on a whim. Don't do this. Don't go to Petco to look at animals and just spontaneously buy an animal without knowing anything about husbandry. Don't do that. That's a bad thing to do. And I shake my fist at myself for doing it. But I did do the research afterwards. So we had this ball python. He is absolutely delightful. I still have him. He's about 12 years old. He's actually behind me in this big enclosure right here.
Nice.
And he is amazing, very chill, just your standard, normal, boring ball python that now you can get for what, like $12 a piece at an expo. Yes, Lido, OG, our first ball python. That's my partner that's making these comments. Carissa is my partner. So,
Hi, Chris.
So that was my first foray into reptile keeping. And then when I was still with my ex-husband, and when we split up and he moved out and I stayed in the house, before that he wasn't a big animal person. Nothing to, I hate animals or anything, just wasn't really into it,
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, I've got my snake, it's good, we're fine, no big deal. Well, maybe like 2 years after he moved out, the switch kind of flipped where I'm like, hey, I'm an adult with my own ability to make decisions without any other input. I can get more reptiles and no one can stop me. And it kind of
Nobody
went
can tell me
downhill from
no.
there. No one told me no. And my partner is very bad at enabling me because she likes them too. And now that my kids are older and they like them too, it just has turned into a whole family thing.
Well, that's super cool. Is it sounds like it's enjoyed by the whole family in
It
different
really is.
levels, and that's what's
Yes.
super cool. And we're going to talk about your collection in just a moment. It's kind of like us. I mean, Crystal has her interests, and you have your interests, and I have mine interests. And we just kind of share,
Yeah.
commonality. And then
Absolutely.
the cool thing is we can, take it to a show and we can talk about those animals to people specific on what our interests are. So that
Yes.
works out.
Yeah, it really, I mean, it's been an awesome, my middle daughter, both my older kids love reptiles. My youngest, my son, he's not anti-reptile. They're not his favorite. He's
Yeah.
got his gerbils. He likes his gerbils. Um, Sadly, they're like almost 5 years old, so they're probably not long for the world, but they've lived a long, happy life. But yeah, it really is an opportunity for us all to kind of like have something positive to focus on and to relate about. My middle daughter, it's been really good for kind of her mental health. She's got some kind of mental health struggles. And so for her, it's really nice to give her something positive to focus on and kind of something to take care of and nurture, with the understanding that at the end of the day, I'm the one who's primarily responsible.
What an interesting concept. That, and I don't think that this is shared enough, that animals can be part of your lives and be that place in your mind that kind of eases some things for you.
Therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Therapeutic.
So therapeutic. Just from a physical standpoint, like my ball pythons, having a ball python resting on your shoulder and kind of squeeze, if you're not snake phobic, then that's like, oh, absolutely not. If
Oh,
you're
heck
not,
no.
if you're not phobic about snakes, though, it is so, that sensory pressure is lovely. But just even sitting and looking at, like, at night, the morning geckos, I spray their tanks, I shut everything down, and they're in the living room, so the tanks will be shut, everything's sprayed, and I sit on the couch and I can hear them chirping at each
Yes.
other. And it's just the most peaceful, serene, like I can kind of see them, even though the lights are off, just kind of going about their business and being happy. And there's something just incredibly like gratifying about that, knowing that these animals are thriving because of how I'm taking care of them. And also just like that, it's a connection to nature, which is really, I think, really important, and a lot of people don't have that. But yeah, morning geckos are just hilarious. If you do not have them and you have space for them, they are such a phenomenal beginner lizard, as long as you're not wedded to handling
I did a
stuff.
top 5 geckos list, and unfortunately, I think the one gecko that I really feel like I should have put on there is morning geckos. We have, I don't even know if I can point. It's actually this tank right here is a
Nice.
morning, and we have 3 morning gecko tanks downstairs actually.
You end
but
up
I'll be
having more and more and more because they're good at making more.
yes, exactly. But like you said, the coolest thing about morning geckos is, and I didn't notice this until this last year, and I've had them for years downstairs and never noticed this, but here I notice it. That you can, I'm sitting here working and I'll hear, I don't say that they're talking or barking, they're clucking.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're kind of clucking at each other.
Yes.
So
They're
I
very
do,
interactive with each other.
yeah. So I'll turn and I'll watch, and they're actually kind of territorial. They're kind of getting on each
Yeah.
other and
Mhm.
pushing and shoving and
Yep.
nipping and nothing serious. But I never knew that
Yeah.
before, bringing them up here.
Communals. And I've told you this before, I'm a sucker for a communal because it gives you another opportunity to see naturalistic behavior that you wouldn't see with a single animal, if it's an animal that can be kept communally in a way that's not detrimental to them.
Oh my gosh, so such a great statement. And we keep a lot of animals that aren't communal and male to female breeding babies and stuff like that. But I tell you what, when you can watch, I'll give you an example, and we talked a little bit about this, but the day geckos and being on perches and sitting next to each other and doing the head bobbing back and then coming closer, and one will hit the other on the nose and then run all the way back to the back of the tank, and the other one will follow. And just I could watch that for hours. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
They're so fun. That I just got 3 ocellated skinks, which I don't think I showed you when I was at the expo. I got 3 ocellated skinks, and they're communal. So I'm very excited. They're still my very good friend Eli, who lives, he works with Fang Hub tarantulas in Wisconsin. He is skink and spider sitting all of my things that I bought at Tinley until weather behaves enough that he can ship them. So he's sending me videos of these skinks, but they're communal and they're very kind of sociable with each other. So that's been very, very cool to see. And the scorpions too are communal, which is so
I did not know that.
Yeah, you can keep them communally.
Oh my gosh. So if you have males, females, it doesn't matter?
Doesn't seem like it matters. I mean, per what Frank Payne has said, and I kind of feel like he's a decent reference on most things. He kind of knows his stuff. So really, I mean, anytime you're keeping communal, it's just about making sure they all have access to all the resources they need.
Wow.
But yeah, they're scorpion tails. When I saw that video yesterday, I was very excited because I know I've been bugging you for 2 years. Wally, do you have scorpion tails? Do you have scorpion tails? Because they're so cool. They're such cool little geckos.
They have quickly jumped right to the okay, they're not number 1 yet, but they're number 2 because they're just always, it's like they're judging you. They'll sit on their little rock and you'll walk back and forth, and they'll just, they're not watching you. They're judging you. They're
scoring. They're going to hold up a little card. 9 out of 10 on getting your work done today.
2, Wally, you get a 2. See?
Oh man, that's what I need. Maybe I'll get my paperwork done if I have scorpion tails judging me. Yeah. Like, you need to get it done. Come on now, lady. Yeah, they're great though. They're fun little animals. I would have all the geckos and all the skinks and all the everything if I had room.
If you had room, but I feel remiss in that I haven't really asked you. Tell us about your, dare I say, eclectic collection?
It is pretty eclectic.
A little bit.
I started with kind of the basics. Like I said, a basic ball python. My first geckos, I have a leopard gecko who is right behind me right there. He's in a 36 by 18 by 18. He is about to get upgraded to a 4 by 2 by 2 because he is extremely active and very interested in everyone around him. He is my first gecko that I got.
Aww.
I got him right after quarantine kind of lifted a little bit, and he waits by the front of his enclosure every night for me to come and take him out, and he sits on my shoulder while I go spray all the tanks down and everything. He is my supervisor. He does not want to be petted. He does not want me to hold him. He wants to sit on my shoulder and supervise everything that I do.
Will it stay right there?
If you bring it out? Well, he'll walk in circles. So he'll walk around the front of my neck and then walk around, and he'll just go from one shoulder to the other. He is absolutely delightful.
Just like a snake, Nanette. It'll just right around your shoulders and right around your neck. Wouldn't that be cool?
Going right up my arm.
Convenient.
Winner.
There you go. So I got him, and then I got a crested gecko. A lot of what I've gotten has been like Craigslist rescue. Marvin is our leopard gecko. A lot of them have been like Craigslist. We can't take care of this animal anymore. We bought it impulsively, and my kids aren't interested, or I'm moving. And so a lot of them have been those kind of just the right time and the right place kind of getting them. I have a list because I didn't want to forget anything.
Before you get into that list, Angie is saying, and don't feel obligated, but if you would like to bring anything out as a show and tell, feel free.
Absolutely. I'll probably actually what I'll probably do is have my partner come up and grab something or bring something. Actually, since you're listening, babe, would you mind bringing
Oh,
Pete up if you can find him?
find him?
Yeah,
Kind of
well,
wandering
he's in a
around.
really big yeah, our free range false chameleon.
Yeah.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
He is in a 24-inch wide by 36-inch tall by 18-inch deep enclosure that's really heavily planted, and he is almost the exact same color as the cork on the background. So there are times we joke that he's going into the lizard void and we can't find him.
He does
Um,
that kind of predator, like the movie
yes. Oh
Predator
my
kind of thing.
gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's like, and the morning geckos do the same thing. They are they
Oh.
are one with the cork, and then it's like a magic eye puzzle. You see one, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. Yeah. Um, Oh yeah, perfect. She's going to bring them up. Yay. So as far as my collection goes, yes, I have ball pythons. I have sand boas. My oldest daughter, sand boas are her favorites.
Oh.
So we have 4 sand boas, 2 of which were rescues, 2 of which I bought kind of outright. We have a hognose snake that I got from the same place that Crystal got hers that I can't remember the name of right now.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. She didn't get it, but she was looking at
Oh
it,
yeah.
and Grandma
Oh
said,
no, she wasn't
"Oh
getting this.
heck
I'm like,
no!"
what snake are we talking about? And what
Oh,
crystal
Wait,
are we talking
wait, what
about?
snake does Crystal
yeah,
have?
yeah.
What are we
Oh,
talking
but
about
they
here?
are Snakeful Grace. Snakeful
Yes,
Grace.
yes.
So I
Good
got
call.
mine from Snakeful Grace, and
Oh, I
wonderful,
remember that.
wonderful. He's amazing. So I have a hognose, I have a pygmy python. So Antaresia species, they're the smallest python in the world. He's about 18 inches long. He's 7-year-old male. I got him at an
No,
expo.
so cute, and the
No.
So
eyes, and
tiny and
no.
adorable.
Oh,
I have the ocellated skinks. I have a fire skink named Dracula Meatball. Hi, Eli. My kids name my animals, so we have animals named like Tax Fraud and Cheeto and just very random.
love it.
Oh, this is
Oh,
this is Pete.
thank
He
you very
is
much for bringing it up. And this is a false chameleon.
he is a false chameleon. I got him
Pull that
from
in
this
closer.
was one that this is my partner enabling me again. Um I was like, "Oh no, I'm done." And she's like, "You know what's really cool is false chameleons." And I'm like, "Say less." And so then I had a friend who I reached out to who's a breeder. And I said, "Hey, do you know anyone who has false chameleons?" And she said, "Well, I have a friend who has a rescue false chameleon that he got that had MBD mild, and he
Okay.
was able to, which he's got a little bit of an underbite, if you can kind of tell. Um, he he was looking to start like kind of a breeding program with them, but he got this one as a rescue, and because he has MBD, he didn't want to do anything as far as breeding goes. And so it was meant to be because he lives about 10 minutes from me, and this person I was talking to was like 3 hours away, so
Wow.
it was one of those, like I said, a lot of them it seems like it's just the right place and the right time. It's just meant to be. So yes, this is Pete, and he
That's
is absolutely delightful.
that's kind of an average size, right?
Yeah, yep, he's full size. Really easy to handle, great eater. They do like UVB. They're like chameleons where they want the drip water
Ah, okay.
versus drinking out of still water. So I have like a dripper in there for him, but he just basically wants to be a stick. They don't bolt. They're very just chill, easygoing. Another as long as you're okay with some specific care requirements in terms of the
Yeah.
UVB and stuff, they're a very easy. I mean, I would get one of these before I get a bearded dragon every day of the week for a beginner.
Really?
Absolutely. He's very happy to be held. He's a great eater.
No,
Um,
you have no room.
I went down to Utah last summer and met up with Russ at Clint's Reptile Room, Russ from Aquarium Max.
Nice.
And Russ was holding Clint's false chameleon, and I could just see the wheels turning in his head. He's like, "Where can I put this?" Because they're really delightful. They're just so much fun and very underrated. Like, they're not one that people think about much. But they don't have the fiddly sensitivities that a chameleon does. But you get kind of the same vibes.
I'm
Chameleon
really
vibes.
surprised. One of the things that I thought false chameleons were known for was to be very skittish, fast,
No.
and not wanting to be handled at all.
Oh
So
no.
my mind is
Fine.
completely changed here.
Yeah, and I don't work with him like particularly.
Yeah.
He didn't get handled a ton before I had him. He's just very calm. Like once in a while he'll be like, "Okay, I'm going to go over there," and he'll zoom for like a foot and then he just stops. He's like, "Wait, now I'm a stick again." He sits on the dining room table to eat sometimes. I clean it off, but I'll put him on the table and then I'll throw like a mealworm or a super worm and he'll grab it with his very black tongue, which is super fun. And he you know how cresties have that reputation for not having the biggest brain cells? Yeah, so my dad doesn't like it when I feed the animals on the table. So I was feeding him on the table. He grabbed a superworm. It was hanging out of his mouth like halfway. I heard my dad coming down the stairs, so I very gently scooped him up and set him on his branch. Well, I think I broke his brain because I was making him do two things at once. So he literally sat with that mealworm hanging or superworm hanging out of his mouth for like an hour before he ate it because he was just very confused. And I'm like, "Oh, honey, you're so cute, but you're not very bright."
I can't do two things at once.
No, multitasking is not his forte. They do have the like anole because they're an anole. They're not a chameleon. Oh, now he's gonna jump. There, that's as much as they jump.
Really?
Anoles are like he does have the like beard, where they kind of I don't remember what it's called, but where they like push out their little skin under their dewlap is what it's
Frank,
called.
what? There you go.
Dewlap,
There you
thank
go.
you. I knew I'd get it. So when he gets real mad about something, he'll show you his dewlap like he's real scary. So yes, we have to assure him that we're very intimidated and we're listening, and then he feels better about it.
Okay, now you have to yell at him or scare him so we see that dewlap.
He won't. He's like, I'm not gonna perform for you. So yeah, so that is Pete. Yeah. Thank you, babe.
What a cutie.
He's a doll.
So I have to ask this because everything that I do is with the mentality of breeding. Have you ever thought of getting a lady false chameleon?
Not false chameleons. So I have kind of going down my list further.
Yeah,
I have two leechies.
Wow.
I have a male and a female. Well, my daughter right now is mad and she doesn't know why. My daughter has two leechies because she got one for her 16th birthday and one for her 17th birthday because she is very spoiled. And it's a male and a female. So eventually, maybe. What I really am more interested in, if I'm going to do any breeding, it's going to be animals that are not commonly bred in captivity, that are hard to find, that I'm encouraging like a captive bred population versus ones that are commonly wild caught, like fire skinks. Most of them are wild caught still.
Yeah,
mine is captive bred. I got mine from Frank Valdez. He's out of California. He's a fire. That's awesome, Brad. Very cool. He's a fire skink breeder. There's a couple other ones, but there's not many. So if I have a female, she's like a pet only, but that would be an example of a species I would consider. The other one, I don't know. You probably can't see him. The enclosure that is right there, is a long-term captive green belly skink. Amoya cyanogaster is the Latin name. There is one person in the United States, as far as I will talk about the spiders.
We'll get there.
One person in the country who lives about an hour and a half from me who is successfully captive breeding them. They are kind of like emerald tree skinks. They're very social. They're very inquisitive. I have a male. I would love to have a female and get a breeding colony going. They're another one you can keep communally. So that is one that I would consider. Oh my gosh, babe. Okay.
I think we have another appearance
yes.
here.
Okay, so we have an appearance because this is one of my wife's favorites.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, cool.
Holy cow.
Can you zoom?
Is that a walking stick? I'm sorry. Yes. I'm more watching than I'm trying to be the editor producer here. Wow. Oops, we lost you. We lost Heather
sound
for a second. We lost sound for a second. Let me try this. Maybe is it me?
Is it you? Did you mute her? Look down.
I don't think so.
Down there.
Yeah, no. Try to unmute you.
All right.
I think it was me.
There it is.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
It was me. I had bumped a button on my cord. So yeah, these are. I got these guys again. It's like it was meant to be. I got them from a Buy Nothing group on Facebook.
Oh my gosh!
Because they, like morning geckos, are parthenogenic. So the woman who had them did not realize that and ended up with like 100 babies because they always say you're supposed to freeze the substrate. Because they could potentially be invasive in tropical areas. They're from Vietnam, so they wouldn't be able to survive where we live. But she posted that she had a bunch of babies and she learned her lesson and now she's freezing her substrate. But they are just absolutely delightful. They're so funny. And their names are Twig and Branch. And because, I'm so creative, I named those. So, but yeah, they do this thing with their arms where they just kind of wave them around. They eat blackberry leaves. So, blackberries are invasive and lots of problems with those in our area. So I have no shortage of people who are happily, we have blackberry leaves all year here. So that's never an issue. You could feed them romaine lettuce as well. You can feed them, they'll eat rose leaves as well. But yeah, I mean, if you pick a blackberry branch, it will grow leaves on it, even in a vase. So you can see why the leaves are invasive or the plants are invasive. So, but yeah, they are just hilarious. And when they think you can't see them, they just will move back and forth like I'm a stick moving in the wind. You can't see me.
Just that little chameleon kind of rocking.
Yes. And so I'm really torn because I kind of am tempted to see if I can put together a bioactive with some very protein hungry isopods in the bottom because they just drop the eggs into the substrate. And I feel like if I did that, then that would take care of there being too many babies. Because I have a whole bunch of giant canyons that I'm sure would love to snack on eggs. And then if one or two survive, then that's fine. They only live like six to 8 months though. So these guys are about 4 months old, but they grow insanely fast. Sorry, Lone Tree here. I'm an enabler. I am not a preventer. That's the running joke. A couple of the people in the chat, Eli and Sarah and Leah, are part of my spider chat that I'm part of. Yeah, they would love grape leaves too. And we always joke that it's a whole group of enablers in there. Anytime we say I haven't used the mulberry diet for them. I'm curious because I do have some of that. I bet they would eat it. I think they're pretty opportunistic. Now I'm curious. I'm gonna have to try that. All right, I'm gonna give you whichever one that is. Twig or branch. They kind of look the same.
I found that fascinating, and I know that there's a fellow over in England that does all kinds of the walking sticks, and
so
that's
cool.
So cool. Are they common here? Is that a part of the hobby?
People, I know that like legality very much varies by state because, like I said, in some states it doesn't get cold enough where they could become invasive, and because they're parthenogenic, it makes it real easy for the population to get out. So you have to just practice good stewardship of your land and husbandry, and make sure that you pull out any substrate and freeze it before you throw it in the garbage. Part of keeping any animal at all, even like dogs and cats, is being a responsible steward of the animals and the environment, and not giving people who would like to make it so we can't keep animals an excuse for why we shouldn't.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
good call.
It's really important for that. But as far as breeding goes, kind of getting back to that.
Yeah.
Animals, I'm interested in breeding animals that are not common in the hobby. I am not looking to make any money off of it. It would be more having captive bred populations of things that have been wild caught in the past. So like really watching like the Stenodactylus geckos, I would love to do some work with those. Any of the little guys, I just think are super cool. I like the small animals. I have a Legodactylus Kimhowley male. I would love to find a female for him. They're real hard to find.
I'm sorry, what animal?
A Legodactylus Kimhowley, the red or the yellow-headed.
Kim
Howley.
Yeah.
I don't want to take your show, but
no, it's okay.
I've been trying to breed them for a while, and I haven't really found a way to collect the eggs the right way. And I finally put it's like, okay, I've got 23 different things, Lego toys, and just everything in there. And God, it sounds like you're falling apart then. The brace.
Yeah, the brace is like getting too tight. Sorry.
So I just went, and you know how it is. You know your animals, and you walk past a tank, and it's like, wait a second, and did the backwards walk and looked, and sure enough, that big, not even as big as the nail on my pinky here, sitting right on the front glass. I'll never catch it, but so I opened up and cup and right in. So I thought, okay, they're breeding. So went in and found a cork bark where it had just a little bit of a ledge inside of it, and that's where they were depositing the eggs. So, and I pulled, I think, 6 or 8 eggs out of there. They are so flippin' underrated. Easy.
They are delightful. Mine is a little butt face though. He waits for me to open the door and then he bolts. And he has escaped more times than any of my other geckos, to the point where we have an aquarium net that sits right next to his tank. Because what he likes to do is he will run behind the shelf. He's on the shelf right under the TV. He'll run behind the shelf, and then he'll gradually climb up the wall till he's like halfway up the wall, and then he'll look at us, and then he'll run back down behind. I'm like, get up. So we'll grab him and put him back in. But that's every couple weeks or so he gets out.
I have a better solution for you. Instead of that net and everything, get a wet vac, and what you can do is get one of those nozzles that are thin on the end, and you just go.
Perfect. Done. Perfect. I love it. I can't believe I didn't think of that. For morning geckos too, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I would love to get a kind of colony of those going.
Yeah,
they're really beautiful, and they're small. I really do like the things that are smaller footprint, because you can give them an enclosure that is really, you don't have to do the bare minimum. I mean, if you gave a pair of those 18 by 18 by 24, that would be a mansion for them. Versus, I mean, I love my lychees, don't get me wrong, I like big lizards too, but if you have fishing for geckos, if you have a limited amount of space, which I very much do, you have to be thoughtful about what you keep, so your husbandry doesn't suffer for your lack of space. So yeah, I mean, I have Urodactylodes, I have the lychees, I have cresties, I have the Kimhowley, I have a Spherodactylus elegans, little micro gecko.
Oh my!
Super cool. Her name's Tax Fraud. I was hoping I had a male and a female pair, but I had 2 females. And then unfortunately one of them passed away, but she's doing great. I have a pixie frog.
Oh,
he is a very angry meatball size right now. He's my daughter's. I have dart frogs. I have a plains toad.
She said she had limited space.
I do have limited space. Literally every surface and wall that we could put an enclosure on in our house has an enclosure on it.
Okay.
Do you not see behind her?
Well, I do, but I'm just saying.
The only spaces that do not have reptile enclosures are our bedroom because it stays very cold in there. My son's bedroom because he's got the gerbils, and my dad's bedroom. My daughter's bedroom, they have 2 sand boas, 2 crested geckos, and the pixie frog in their bedroom. We've got the dining room has 2 walls of tanks. The living room has tanks. It's all the kitchen. The bar where normal people eat has a beetle tank and a vampire crab tank on it. All the stuff everywhere, anywhere you look. And as far as invertebrates, it's a whole different
Oh boy.
a whole different thing. So I have a red widow, which is black widow, but red, different species, that I got from Marshall Arachnids, she's absolutely lovely. I have a Thai cave huntsman spider. They're the ones they're real flat. They kind of almost look like a crab spider in how their legs are, but her leg span is about that big. She's really pretty, but their legs are striped. They're really beautiful. I have 4 jumping spiders, 2 Regius, 1 Audax, and 1 that is just a random one that I found climbing on one of our plants that has been this big for about 2 years. So it's just one of our native little species. But of course, if I find a spider in the house, it gets a new home. It gets an enclosure. I also have a woodlouse spider that I found in my isopod bin that I'm like, no, you can't live here. I have about 50-ish species of tarantulas.
Wow.
Again, I thought she had limited space.
I do, but tarantulas are smaller.
Yeah.
Although my big tarantulas, my breeder, I have my Carabiner versicolor mama who I've donated for the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas. She is in a 12 by 12 by 15 planted enclosure with a light and everything. I've got a couple of my adult females are in really big, nice enclosures. Woodlouse spiders are so cool. They almost look like their abdomens look like velvet. They're so beautiful. So I have the tarantulas. Eli, who's in the chat, he's my pusher. He encourages me to buy more tarantulas whenever I'm like, oh, I could. What species should I get? Let's get this one. I like arboreal species, but I do try to do planted tanks even with my tarantulas. I collect moss from outside. We live in Moss Central. Pacific Northwest is like the best for moss. We have like an unsprayed natural wilderness area at the very back of our subdivision. So I am the weird person who is out there. My neighbors probably think I'm insane because I'm constantly coming back, dragging branches and grapevine, blackberry leaves and gobs of moss and stuff. And I try to be, I only take like little patches from here and there. I won't pull the whole thing. But it grows back so quick here, which is really nice. So everything's planted. So yeah, I have the tarantulas. I have about 15 species of isopods for a while. I had like 50 species and then it just got to be too time consuming. So I have my like favorite species and then I have some of the like ones for cleanup crew. I have a vinegaroon that I actually got from the same person I got my my false chameleon from, because once someone realizes that you're a person that's interested and then they have an animal that they don't want anymore, you get reached out to a lot. So I get a lot of that. I have a tailless whip scorpion. Her name's Taylor Swift. She's delightful. I have 2 Asian forest scorpions, one of which is going to my mother-in-law soon because she loves scorpions too. My mother-in-law also has a crested gecko because of me, and my sister-in-law has 2 crested geckos and a leopard gecko because of me. Because I'm moving into other people's houses now.
I love that you have that influence and getting the passion from other people.
And really, it was one of those things like my mother-in-law has been like, she's like, I never in a million years would have thought that I wanted a gecko. And now every day I just walk past Dolly's enclosure and say, you're just so beautiful. And it's so sweet to see. I love it. And it brings her so much joy because they don't go out a ton. And so having that little piece of nature in their house has been, I think, really good for them.
Yes.
So yeah, and I have the stick bugs. I have a tank of like 7 species of desert beetles. We call it Beetle TV because there's always something going on. I've got blue death feigning beetles, black death feigning beetles, Yes, I did. I'm the pusher. I've got the little micro darkling beetles that are like tiny, tiny, and then I've got some fuzzy ones that are a little bit bigger. Bunch of different species, so that's a really cool tank because it's very busy. Um, I have 3 species of springtails. I have 2 species of millipedes. I have the fish tanks that have shrimp and dwarf frogs, and I have some vampire crabs. So yeah,
My
that's
goodness.
most of my stuff. I'm probably forgot something. I always do.
What I think is cool is you're kind of crossing over, geckos and inverts and arachnids and this
Mhm.
and that. I think that that's super cool. It's something that, I feel, I'm at a loss for because I haven't gone over. We've got these
That
shield
tail is
tail
going nuts
lizards
behind
back
me.
here. You probably can't hear it, but they're just going
He
nuts.
is going
That's
crazy.
my expansion away from geckos because it looks like a gecko kind
Yeah,
of.
gecko
So,
adjacent.
He
Yeah,
is just
I
going crazy.
I think part of it is like anything that you learn, and I was kind of talking about that with you before we started. Anything that you learn about one thing very much like helps you do better with something else. So like a lot of people they'll do tarantulas or invertebrates into reptiles. I kind of went the other direction. And so it was really funny because, people talk about like, well, this tarantula is very difficult to keep. The most difficult tarantulas to keep are easier than the easiest reptiles. So for me, I'm like, why is this difficult? There's no like, you don't even have to do UVB. There's like nothing to this. But anything you learn about one is going to help you with the others because it's all nature, it's all connected. So it helps you kind of consider like, okay, I've got this experience with reptiles and this has been successful for me with geckos. So skinks and geckos, they're both lizards, they're going to need similar things. So all of the knowledge that you have is going to build to make you a better keeper for anything.
I really felt like when I got into isopods, and we had talked before, we were in the Milwaukee Aquarium Society for years, and I felt like a lot of what I learned keeping fish
Yes,
transferred immediately to keeping
absolutely.
isopods. You're doing the
Absolutely.
same exact thing. Don't
Yes.
throw out all your dirt and add new dirt and expect them
Mhm.
to be breeding tomorrow. Same
Exactly.
with fish. Don't fill the tank with water out of the faucet and throw in 2 rams and a piece of
Hope for
slate
the
and
best.
let's go.
Yeah, come on, guys. Um, Cecilia, I have giant African millipedes that are still babies, and then
Oh,
I have some why am I blanking out on the name of just the black and white striped ones?
ivory,
No.
Yes, ivories. Thank you. I
ivory.
have some baby ivories. So nothing big and thrilling yet. They're very, very cool though. I have less luck with millipedes than any other species of invertebrate, which is really funny. Like if you can breed tarantulas and get babies and not lose any babies, you should be able to handle millipedes. I don't know. I've had not the best luck with millipedes. I'm trying again with them with being a little more attentive versus letting them do their own thing, which mostly invertebrates like to do their own thing. These seem like they need to be babied a little more. I don't know, but we'll see in a year how how they're doing.
How many
Um
is the giants, the giant
yeah.
Africans?
Yeah.
How many do you have?
I had 10 to start with.
Wow.
I think I had a couple that mismolted. There I did the enclosure correctly as far as like the substrate and the rotten leaves and stuff. Oh, that's really cool. Bumblebees I really like too. The pillipedes I would be worried about from the standpoint of just like care. Their care requirements are really particular, although I do know that there is someone who has been successfully breeding them and I can't remember who it is. Um
Um, I
it
think
was
it might was it Steph Reisberg from Green
Yes, I
Acres
think it
Exotics?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would definitely get some from someone who knows what they're doing and is able to like, yeah, there you go. That would be super easy. Just put a can of tuna in there and I'm good. That's the trick to the isopod or the millipedes that I've been missing. Thank you, Frank. They need more tuna in their diet. Um, but yeah, they're I had 10. I had lost a couple. I think the rest of them are still doing okay. It's one of those ones I just feel like I haven't been successful and now I'm afraid to check on them a little bit. 'Cause I'm like, "Oh, it's so bad." But of course I will. I kept ivories before, and it was before I was super familiar with isopods, and I made the mistake of putting isopods in with them, and that ended with the isopods saying, "Thank you for that very delightful
Yes.
and expensive snack that I had." And lesson learned on that one, springtails only.
Yep.
Um, you
Been there,
know,
done that.
yeah, and I mean, I try to research to the nth degree before I get something. But sometimes you make dumb mistakes, and I hope that I will not make a mistake like that again.
Well,
Um,
sometimes, and especially, we're talking about these giant Africans. Sometimes there's not that many people that maybe there's a handful of people. Yeah, I had them. I had one, and it lived for X number of years. But how many people, get babies and raise them up? How many people breed them and go through that
not
whole
very
process?
many.
Not
And
very
from what
many.
I've heard, it's not like the male to female ratio is weird. And that's part of the issue is it's hard to, I can't remember whether it's the males or the females, but there's one of the two that like there's many less of them. So it's hard to get like a breeding group going. I don't know what I have. I'm hoping that eventually they get to the point where they're big enough to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it makes my ADHD brain happy that there's always a new direction to go with reptile and invertebrate keeping. It's really easy to like in the past with kind of hobbies that I've had, you learn it, you kind of master it, and then you're done with it and you move on, and it doesn't provide that same serotonin boost anymore. Reptiles, invertebrates, that kind of stuff, there's always something new to learn. There's always some other aspect of it that you haven't
Yes.
focused on. So like, okay, well, I can focus on building the enclosures. I can focus on what are the optimum plants. I can focus on what's the best microfauna. I can focus on, well, in the wild, what are their light and heat and humidity requirements going to be like? There's more than I could ever do in my entire life, and always be learning something new every day.
I
I love.
agree 1,000%. There's always something a little bit different. Working with geckos, I can even drill down into knobtails. Well, knobtails have their own and
Yes.
then tomorrow I'm going to look at my banded geckos, my
Yes.
coleonyx, because
Yeah.
they're completely different. And the
Mhm.
day after that, I'm going to look at some other Kim
Exactly.
Howleye. So
Exactly.
it's something different.
And I love that. And I love learning in general. I'm just like a giant nerd about learning stuff. And I have learned more about things that I never in a million years thought I was going to know about since I've gotten into this hobby. Um, like I said, I've always loved animals. So I'm honestly surprised it didn't happen sooner. Um, God knows what my house would look like then. Oh my gosh, we wouldn't even have beds. We'd be living on top of, a monitor enclosure or something. I am not a spreadsheet person. I am not an organization person like that. I wish I was.
Did you say you're not a spreadsheet person?
No, I
Wow.
know.
Good
I
night,
know. I
everyone.
know. I know.
Bye-bye.
It's my
Good
shame.
night.
I know. It's so bad. And I was actually thinking about you today because I literally spent all day making spreadsheets of my kids that I'm going to have next year coming in, the incoming ninth graders. And I'm like, Wally would be so proud of me, but I never would do this for my animals. I am very routine driven with my animals.
Okay.
So it's one of
That's
those
good.
like every morning about the same time I get up and I have a path that I walk through so things don't get missed. Every night that I'm responsible for animal stuff, I do it the same path but in reverse. I'm very lucky that my daughter, no spreadsheets. My daughter, my middle daughter, is the chief gecko feeder and sprayer at night on the nights that she's with me and not with her dad. So that's really wonderful. I mean, fully half of them are hers, so it's fine. And then my older daughter is a snake feeder. So I have distributed kind of the labor. So if we decide to go somewhere for the weekend, the kids can come over from their dads and help out. I don't have to like pay to have someone come in. They know the husbandry of everything.
That's perfect.
Which makes it much, much easier. And then, yeah, like stuff like the kid, I have my own, I have feeder cultures. So that makes things easier. I don't have to constantly be going to the store to buy things. I have a dubia colony. I have a mealworm colony. I have a superworm colony. I have isopods. I always have 2 different kinds of fruit flies, always in the house, so I don't have to keep that as part of my like brain. I have to remember to go to Petco and get XYZ, you know.
How important do you feel that is to your care of your animals?
I feel like it's really important because I have so many. Like,
Yes.
if I had 1 or 2 animals, it wouldn't be a big deal to once a month go to a store and buy a cup of mealworms and a thing of, you know, dubias and be like, okay, this is good for the next month or month and a half. Like my sister-in-law, she's got a local reptile store by her that's phenomenal. If anyone's ever in Albany, Oregon, go to Reptopia. They are amazing. She'll go and get like 50 mealworms and a 50 thing of dubias, and that's enough for 2 months for her leopard gecko. And I mean, he would eat them all in one sitting if we let him, but you know, it's not a big deal. But for me, I've got enough animals that like I need to have a stock. But I mean, we also all know like it's not like dogs and cats where if they miss a day of food, they're gonna, you know. So I think people sometimes think about them in that same way, and reptiles are not, they're opportunistic feeders. So they're not really, I mean, obviously you don't want to like not give them, yeah, Sarah, you're so right there. Um you don't want to like not feed them for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Right.
But at the same time, if you feed them on Thursday instead of Wednesday, they're not going to be keeled over dead in the bottom of their enclosure unless there was something else pretty significantly wrong going on.
I don't think people, I think, you know, you have a bigger collection. We have a bigger collection. I don't think people get that.
Mhm.
The biggest time waste I have downstairs is every week I'll probably spend 2 to 3 hours picking mealworm larvae and the beetles and
Mhm.
transferring. And now I've got a bin of babies. And how
Yes.
often do I use those? Never, ever. Oh, wait. I have used them 2 times. Why did I use them? Because I couldn't flip and get any other insects for
Exactly.
weeks.
Mhm.
So
Well,
it
and
was like, okay, got to
especially
dig in.
with the little geckos where you need the micro mealworms and stuff. Like for me,
Yes.
for the baby, for slings, baby tarantulas, it's the same thing. Like I want to be able to go and get 2 freshly shed tiny little mealworms that are like a half an inch long to feed to my baby jumping spiders or to feed to my baby tarantulas. I'm not going to be able to get that at any store. Like that's just not going to happen. You know, so if you want that variety, you need to do some of it yourself. Like that's just, and it's, mealworms are so stupidly easy to culture. There's really, unless you only have one animal, there's really no reason to not have some kind of just little bin with mealworms in it because they're unkillable.
For
Um,
you and your spiders, I maybe you've tried and you did it didn't work out, but I've got to suggest peanut beetles.
I,
I
I
don't know.
haven't tried them.
Oh gosh, Heather. We just lost our whole colony here, and I'm talking
Oh,
to stuff to get a colony back in.
okay.
But it's super easy. Just throw, carrots in once a week,
Okay.
and the wheat and some cracked, the peanuts so they can get in there, and you don't have to do anything with them. When you need
Love
them, just
that.
kind of dig and sift, and you got 100 little larvae.
That is definitely something because I bet my fish would eat those too.
Yes,
And that's
mine.
the other thing, between my fish, we have a diamond tetra tank. So anytime we get like an overabundance of like fruit fly stuff, they go in with the fish. Anytime that we have big feeders that no one will eat, they go in with the desert beetles. The more animals you have, the less waste you have too,
Yes.
because we have like, it sounds morbid and horrible, but I've got a couple of snakes that are picky eaters, and so like if they decide they don't want their mouse, the little mice that don't, not the big ones because they get stinky, but like little ones, if I have a snake that's like, I'm not hungry this week, I'll put it in with the beetles. In 2 days that mouse is down to bones, and then I've got little mouse skulls in my enclosure, which that's a totally normal thing to aspire to, right? Is to have mouse skulls. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Every family should have at least 100
I
or
mean, come
so.
on, just check it off. It's like they're decorating. They're decorating the house for Halloween early. Um, yeah, but as far as feeders, I am a huge proponent of as big a variety of feeders as you can possibly reasonably give to your animals.
As long
Because
as
in the
it's not taking
wild,
all your resources.
yes, yeah, exactly. Because in the wild, they're going to be eating opportunistically, kind of what's there. So of course, I have animals that are sometimes they're picky, and so they're like, I'm not going to eat that $20 pack of silkworms that you just bought. And I'm like, you better eat it. I just paid for it. But I always have a couple of animals. That's the nice thing. If something doesn't eat, something else will eat it. I don't ever throw anything in the garbage. Nothing ever gets thrown away.
You made that comment, and all I can think of is like a gecko and a hornworm, where you paid $2 for this
Oh my
one.
gosh, right?
I will love him, and I will choose him, and I will call him George.
Oh gosh, right? Well, the nice thing about the hornworms is my blue tongue skink, that's her favorite. So because they go from tiny where I can feed them to my spiders. I mean, I've got some big spiders, so but like they go from small to big in about I don't know what 5 minutes.
5
Like
minutes.
you make a a thing of ramen noodles. You come back and your hornworms are too big to feed to your spiders. Well, my blue tongue will eat anything. So it's very convenient because sometimes feeders are expensive. So yeah, you don't want to buy something and have it go to waste, and you don't want it to just die for no purpose. That's Tegus would be the same way. Tegus are garbage disposals. My skinks, I mean, it has to be smaller, obviously, but they're the same way.
I had a real quick question from Jen about peanut beetles. The same thing as bean beetles. They are not. They're completely different. I don't like bean beetles per se because they're kind of crunchy, and I just feed
You're not supposed to be eating them.
I thought that's what the question was.
Dang.
So we don't feed the bean. I have 4 cultures of bean beetles going right now for whatever reason, but we don't feed them because we use the micro mealworms more. And again, peanut beetles are one of those, let's just feed something different kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I don't know.
What are we doing with them?
I don't know.
He's building a bean beetle army.
Yes.
It's a really small, crunchy army. Okay. I mean, that's definitely something to try. And that's the other part that this is just a glowing example of it. One of the things that I was not anticipating about getting into the kind of reptile and invertebrate hobby, because the Venn diagram is almost a circle, but there's some people that have one or the other, is the community and how people want to help each other. And I mean, I feel like obviously you have done a phenomenal job of building a community, but I did not anticipate when I got into this that I would be making actual, like, real life friends who I connected to in a way that is very meaningful to me. Like, I've got, like, there's people in the chat Sarah, who Spooky Sweet Spoods, who's in the chat. Hi, Sarah. Is who I stayed with when I went to Tinley. She vends at expos. She does super awesome 3D printed spider hides and jumping spiders and stuff. But we have been talking for like 2 years in this chat about spiders. And so when I said, hey, I want to go to Tinley, she said, hey, I have a guest room. You're welcome to stay with me. Kids don't go meet people on the internet, but as adults, it's different. And so I figure it was a real long game if after 2 years, I have made so many connections to people, and it's really wonderful because most people in the hobby, there's going to be stinkers in every hobby, but most people they want to share their passion with other people. And so, like, having conversations with, like, I would never have considered peanut beetles. So, like, oh, hi, Sarah, other Sarah. She's also from my spider chat. I wouldn't have even been something I would have been aware of. Like, I know. Oh, she's so sweet. Objectively, I know that they exist, but like talking to someone and getting their actual experiences from someone that I respect and who I know knows about the animals, that's not something that's going to happen just randomly. Like, it is a strength of this community is people are sharing information all the time. And going to Tinley, so I just got back from Tinley like a couple weeks ago, and it was the first time I'd gone. And I literally just walked around, and every single person that I talked to at the table was like the nicest, kindest, making time to talk, even if I was clearly not buying anything. They wanted to talk because they were passionate about what they were selling.
Couldn't
And
agree more. Couldn't
it was
agree
just
more.
such a wonderful, wonderful group. There was only one table that I went to where the people were not immediately like, "Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? What did you find? What are you looking for?" Like, and that was a table because he was so excited talking to one of his friends about something that he had just bought. The vendors were talking. And so,
Sure.
because I think a lot of people go and they talk to people that they maybe don't see, they only see that 1 or 2 times a year. So I couldn't fault him that. He was very excited. But it is just such a awesome community of people, and maybe I've just lucked out and found the like little niche of that community. Because again, there's going to be butt faces in every hobby. Um, but I really found like, yeah. Oh, I did not talk to Garrett, but I did talk to one of the other people at the Reach Out Reptiles booth for about 20 minutes about African house snakes. I'm like, dude, why did you guys not bring any of your African house snakes along? And we talked for 20 minutes about that, and with no intention of buying anything. Just and he wasn't trying to sell me anything. We were just talking, and it was so delightful to be around people that are as passionate about reptiles and invertebrates as I am.
Tinley is a different show. I think the fall show is very, very, very different from the spring show. I love the spring show. The fall show is more commercial, unfortunately, and you're
Okay.
going to find the same people that you just mentioned, and
Yeah.
they're going to talk to you. But in general, the fall show is more a cash register. I want this
True.
animal. Give me your money. Okay, here's your
Yeah.
change. Next. But for the most part, I completely agree with you. One of the highlights of our trip down to Tinley, obviously, was meeting you in person. That was super cool. It was like, oh, there's Heather right there. Cool.
I have legs. I'm not just on a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just seeing people, like I talked to the people from Wild Type podcasts, so that's like Liz's Lizards and Napoleon the Chameleon, and I listened to them. So that was cool. I talked to Tyler from Celestial Exotics, and I was just like, "Hi, I love your shows." And and I met Mo from Tarantula Cribs, and that was super cool. And just people that you know that are part of my life in a way, because I always have some kind of reptile YouTube on. And so I feel like I already know you guys, but now I've actually met you. So that was kind of cool. Yeah,
Do
I would.
you do you feel intimidated when you hit a show like that? I'll tell you who I felt intimidated meeting, and I didn't say hi, and I walked away from the show thinking, "What the heck was that? Why didn't you say hi?" He's just Adam
Oh,
Wickens, and just walked right past us. There's Adam. Why don't
yeah.
you extend a hand, Wally, and say hi? And he walks right past.
Yeah, I I am not a person who like stands on pretension ever. I kind of am I'm very like, I have this kind of anti-authoritarian streak in me. So I'm very like, I'm not the kind of person who's like, "Oh, do you know who that person is?"
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't intimidate me, but I did not talk to him either, but it was more just because I felt like had a lot of people around him, and I was like, "I'm not gonna go make you perform." But he is the reason that I'm not like, I don't watch Wickens a ton, but I mean, he's got some good stuff. It's
Mhm.
kind of like, I find his stuff entertaining. I don't know if we would be like, buddy, let's hang out. But he's the reason that I know about the Antaresia genus. He's the reason that I have my pygmy python. I'm fully like, will acknowledge that. So he has done that positive, has impacted my life in a way that's positive. So if I were going to talk to him, it would be to say, hey, thank you for putting this out there. I did talk to Mr. Chewy, the guy who, the person who runs Chewy. I talked to
Oh
him instead of
wow.
talking to Wickens, because we were talking about Reptilinks. Very important discussion, about the little feeder sausagey things. But yeah, those kind of things, I tend to be the never met a stranger type of person. So I don't, have problems going up and talking to people usually. My kids won't actually go in like pet stores with me anymore because it always turns into an hour-long husbandry lecture and they're kind of over it. Because I'll see someone who is like looking at things and obviously confused, and I'll say, "Oh, what are you what are you what are you looking for? What do you keep?" And 9 times out of 10 they're like, "Oh, my kid just got this thing and I have no idea what to do." And I'm like, "Cool, well, let's talk about it." And most of the time it's a pretty basic animal and I know the husbandry stuff pretty well, so I can say, "Okay, here's where you start. First of all, turn around and walk out of Petco." And but no. No, I mean, some stuff you can get there. Some
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
you just
yeah,
don't have the specialty stuff.
yes.
I have like a note section with all the like common things that I recommend for different animals that I share sometimes with people because it's easier. But I love that piece of it, and that's kind of how it connects to like me being kind of like SLP, kind of a teaching role. I love teaching people about things. I love sharing information with people. So when I go into a store and I have the opportunity to kind of do that and be like, "Oh, well, I'm really excited for you. You're just getting into this. This is so awesome. Here are some pointers that you can use. Here are some materials that I've tried that sucked, or here's some stuff that was wonderful." Um, it's really overwhelming for people when they get into the hobby, even if they are excited about it and they want to be. There's a lot of information out there, and it's really nice to have someone you can ask questions to versus just watching something.
And there we go. There we made the full circle to the comment that I make every single show, and that's, if nothing else in this
Yes,
hobby,
Julie.
find 3 people, find 1, 2, 3 people that you can talk to and
Mhm.
not feel like you're bothering them.
Yes.
And not to say that all 3 of them will agree on things, and a lot of times they won't, but kind of then take all that information in, process it, think of nature, go to Google Scholar, something like that.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
find 3 friends that you can, just, hey, what do you think about this?
And I feel like I'm sure there are tons and tons and tons of people who have 1 or 2 reptiles that keep them perfectly fine and don't have any interaction with other people in the community. And that's completely fine. If they're providing proper husbandry for their animals, I have nothing to say about that. But I think that they are missing out on one of the best parts of the hobby, which is connecting to other people and sharing that passion. Whether it is just going to expos and walking around, whether it's talking to people about husbandry stuff, whether it's teaching people about it. I have I do a informal kind of like visit with reptiles to a community kind of program once in a while. And that has been really meaningful for me to give an opportunity for people to experience them that wouldn't have an opportunity to otherwise. Because there's a lot of misconceptions too. And so like that community building piece, I think, is really, really, really important. And I don't know,
Interesting.
not everyone has the same, but again, that goes with the teaching thing for me. Not everyone has the same reasons that they get into the hobby or the things that are going to excite them about it. But for me, that's like my favorite part, is sharing my passion for it with other people.
That's a great point, because everybody has a different way of enjoying the
Yeah,
hobby.
absolutely.
Outside of, I'm keeping this leopard gecko. Okay, now what can I do from a social standpoint? Is it
Mhm.
getting together with your leopard gecko friends? Is it posting pictures on Instagram? Is
Exactly.
it dancing to a TikTok and showing your leopard
Your
gecko?
Gecko.
um,
Oh, I think he would bite me if I tried to do that. And I would deserve it.
a little leopard tango. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
He would, if I bribed him, maybe. But it's true. It's like there's you get out of it what you put into it, to a certain extent, but like people are different, have different things that they take joy in, and we were talking about that with the fish even
yep.
before we went on. Like some people want to do it because it's like, I take passion in breeding this, being able to say that I bred these fish that no one else could get to make babies. And so that's amazing. Or like I want to have a community of fish keeping friends that I talk to. For me, it's like I like planted takes and aquascaping and all that cool stuff and want to be able to sit and look at it because, you know, why not be into fish and throw even more money into the into a
Because you have
vortex.
all that unused room available in
Yes,
your
so
house.
much extra room. I'm like, I'll just shove an aquarium in there.
Didn't I hear that your father's room is completely empty?
It is. It is. I actually do joke that he is the reptile in that room because it's about 20 degrees warmer in there. He's got a space heater. And I joke,
Oh.
I'm like, do you need a basking light? I think I have an extra halogen in the laundry room if you want one. What is like the ambient temp you're looking for? I've got like one that I could maybe get up to 120 if we have like a slate platform for you. You can kind of lay on it and, you know.
Speaking of humidity, the first time that he ever admits that, you know, it's a little dry in the house, you have a rack of aquariums in his
Exactly.
room like that.
I don't think I was. That doesn't sound familiar to me. Hoffers. I was like I was into fish more when I lived in Wisconsin. I loved reptiles, but I wasn't keeping anything. I didn't keep them until like much later. So yeah, I feel like it's so funny because now I've got all these Midwest friends who keep reptiles and invertebrates that I'm like, I had to move to the other side of the country to make the friends in the Midwest, which is just ridiculous to me. Although it does make it really fun when I go back to visit. I'm like, I've got too many people I want to see. What was Hoffers?
Hoffer's
Tropic Life.
Hoffer's Tropic Life. Nanette worked there actually for a while. How many years? A couple years?
About 3 years.
About 3 years.
I worked part-time at night just to get out of the house after being home all day.
Getting away from me. Is
Yeah,
that
you
what
came home
that's
and
a
I
good
left.
idea.
Kind of like it worked this last time.
Tag,
You retired, I left.
Yeah, you walked out the door and I went, hallelujah.
Yeah, so did I.
A great fish store. You know, you mentioned Aquatics Unlimited earlier. I think Hoffer's was probably a little bit bigger than Aquatics, but really good. Mike passed away
5 years ago.
5 or so, and
5 years ago the owner passed away. It was the best.
Oh, very cool. Because I
Yeah,
remember
you probably knew me, Angie, and I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
I worked only in the fish department, though. I wouldn't work anywhere else. I would literally their reptile department. I had to walk past, and I would just like zoom past.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, I used to go to, we went to Aquatics Unlimited from the time I was like little. My parents and I would walk around there. That was like our cheap Saturday afternoon activity. We would go and look at all the fish, and there was the big koi pond in the center. And it was before they moved, because they were on like Highway 100 and then they moved down.
Yes, further
I'm
down.
dating myself
now.
But yeah, that place was amazing. And now, we've only got the two aquariums, but it's okay. They're very pleasant to watch.
Would you ever expand out to have more fish, saltwater?
Probably not salt. I don't know. I know my partner thinks saltwater is cool. I like if I were going to expand and I had the money and space to do it, which I have neither, I would probably get an axolotl because I think they're really cool and they're kind of like a intermediary between the reptiles and the fish. I like the big tanks much more because they just stay stable better than the small ones.
Good point.
So if I had more space to have maybe one more big tank, I would do that, but not. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I would consider it. I mean, there are not too many animals I wouldn't consider. Sarah, the reason that I want an axolotl, I've always liked them, but Sarah has an axolotl and he is absolutely awesome. He's like a big sausage. He's like this big. And I have many pictures of him from when I stayed with her. I'm like, he's so handsome. So yeah, I would, there aren't too many animals that I wouldn't consider if I had the money and time and space for them. You know.
Well, let me ask this. Now we're kind of winding down here. We've had you a long time here, but let me ask this. 5 years from now, where is 503 Menagerie? Where is Heather? Do you see yourself keeping basically the same kind of animals, not really expanding, just very comfortable with what you're keeping?
I'm I'm at the point where from a space standpoint, it would not I would have to it would impact husbandry if I got any more animals. So I'm not going to do anything that is going to make any of my animals that I currently have to take like a cut in their care. My 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 New Year's resolution for this year was to improve some aspect of husbandry for every animal that I own over the course of the year.
Nice. What a great
Um,
idea.
so it could be as simple as I'm going to change a plant out that's been dying to a
Yeah.
new one, or I am going to, um, I don't know, rearrange things. And then for some, it's you're getting a whole new enclosure. So I don't anticipate, like, my goal is always to like improve the husbandry of the animals that I have before I buy any more animals. When I buy more animals or when I get animals, it's generally not because I was like going in with a plan to buy them. And the sad thing is, I know enough now to know that most of whatever I get, I'm going to be able to maintain to a pretty high standard because I have all the stuff. I
Yep.
have extras of everything. Like, so it's harder to not I don't have the excuse of like, oh, I don't have the stuff for this, because I know full well I have the stuff for it, but I don't have the space. So in 5 years, if we're still in the same house, I probably won't keep much that's different from what I have. And most of the things that I have are pretty long lived. Um, I also, when I buy an animal or when I get an animal in whatever way that I get it, because sometimes it's just people saying I can't take care of this anymore. I make a commitment to that animal to keep it. I'm not going to, oh, now this is interesting to me, so I'm going to get rid of this to make space. I don't. The only way that I get rid of an animal is if I am not able to care for it appropriately, for whatever reason, because there is nothing wrong with saying, I'm not in a space right now where I can care for my animals appropriately, and so I'm going to rehome them. That is the responsible thing to do if you are a pet owner and you, for whatever reason, cannot take care of them. There's nothing wrong with that. I have an issue with people saying this animal is boring to me. I'm not gonna keep it. I understand that there's things that happen. If you're like, this animal is doing nothing for me, and because of that, I am not motivated to keep up appropriate husbandry, then yes, okay, you've got this other animal that maybe you're passionate about that you can, I'm going to give this to someone who is excited about it and is going to give it the best possible care. Because sometimes you buy something and you think it's going to be X and it's actually Y. So
Yes. Yes.
as long as you're cautious, you're not doing that on a regular basis. It's just one of those, like, when you do that, I would, for me, I would be like, I want to reflect very carefully on why I would need to rehome that. And maybe hopefully that will learn that I would not make that same mistake again.
That's a hard thing for a lot of people. And, I think that it's a natural thing for people getting into the hobby, especially. Okay, I've had this leopard gecko for 2 years now. I
Mhm.
want to try this. So out with the old, in with the
Yeah.
new kind of
And
theory.
so for me, I keep everything so that I just don't have any space. But really, then, so if you're looking for something new, what can you do with that animal that you already have to like better it and to learn? So, okay, you've got that leopard gecko in a 20 long. Cool. You want something new. See what happens if you put that leopard gecko in a 36 by 18 by 18. Try to do bioactive stuff with it. Try to like introduce some new feeders. There's other things that you can do to kind of rekindle that excitement. But
Teach it to dance so that you can put it on
dance,
TikTok.
of course. That, I
That's
mean,
all
that's
we
the
do.
first one that comes to mind. Um, put funny hats on it. No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
It'll bite you and you'll deserve it. But there are there's always another animal that you can buy, and it's sometimes very tempting, but you have to be realistic about what you can care for, what you can keep, not just keep to survive, but keep and have it be thriving. And honestly, I feel like I'm kind of at where I I'm at that level right now where, like, anything more that I get is there's going to have to be, yeah, right, a third. There you go, 3D background, perfect, exactly. Mine climbs all the time. There's other ways to kind of get that serotonin boost. But if you feel like your husbandry is suffering because that animal is not engaging to you anymore, then there is nothing wrong with rehoming it to someone who's going to give it better care. Flipping animals where it's like, I'm going to keep this for a little bit, I'm going to toss
Right.
it. It's something that when you rehome something, it should be done very conscientiously versus just, it's no big deal. It's just an animal. Who cares? I only paid $20 for it. It's not about that. And if that's how you feel about animals, you shouldn't be keeping any animals at all. I honestly, my hot take for the night, this will be my hot take for the night. I believe that reptiles should be more expensive than they are.
Yeah.
I feel like no animal should be less than $100. I don't care if it's a normal ball python. I don't care if it's a crested gecko that looks like mud and has no tail and was just big enough to sell. No animal should be less than $100, because the sad thing about human nature is if people don't pay a lot for something, sometimes they don't value it. And I think that that's on people as a species being kind of 0 out of 10 sometimes. But I feel like people need to value the animals. And when they get, sulcatas should be thousands of dollars.
Right.
Sulcata should be like $5,000, because that's the only thing that's going to stop people who are wildly unprepared. Now you got me going on that one. Don't even get me started on sulcatas. That's one of the reasons we don't have any tortoises, because I cannot give them the space that they need. And my partner would love a tortoise. And I would love a tortoise if I had the space and the appropriate, build for it, which I fully don't. And when you can get them for $20 and they're this big and they're so cute, they should be $5,000 a piece. There's my
price,
campaign
or
slogan.
there should be some kind of application or license or something on some of these. I'm thinking of I've got to throw a movie line in, a quote from a movie, but I'm thinking of Parenthood, where Keanu Reeves is having a baby with one of the main character's daughters. And he's, kind of a serious moment. You need a license to go fishing. You need a license to get married. Nobody has to make you get a license to have a kid.
Exactly.
And so, it's so easy. It's almost like you're saying, it's almost disposable, unfortunately.
It is.
Not to try to relate that, but.
And I mean, that's, and I disposable kids, I joke with my kids all the time. Don't make me mad. You're too big to fit in the fire station slots where you surrender your babies. Cause they're teenagers now and the whole thing. But they, it's true. It's people see, and it's a sad thing that people see animals that are cheap as disposable.
Yes.
And it's like, then just don't get them if that's going to be your view on it. But yeah, sulcatas, especially any of the bigger tortoises, monitors, Burmese pythons that they shouldn't even be selling, because like 1% of people in the world can actually appropriately house and take care of a Burmese python. Like, yes, absolutely. Exactly. Okay, I know how you know. That's the thing. They will tear up your everything. Sulcatas are like bulldozers. If there was a miniature version of every animal, that would be different, but there isn't.
We're going to hit some questions here. I've been terrible about bringing some of these up, but Nanette, do you want to go over some of the questions?
Yeah, you got to show me though, because my computer just died.
Oh no.
Where did you get your name?
Good one. This is a good one.
503.
Okay, 503 is my zip code. So zip code, no, area code, not zip code.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. 503 is our area code, and I live in a menagerie. So I'm like, it rhymes, and it just was like this perfect kind of like serendipitous thing.
Love it.
So it was it just kind of popped into my brain.
Perfect.
I think we covered this one, but let's recover it.
We didn't cover it.
kind of, sort of?
I don't
I do a kind of like visit on a semi-regular basis with adults with disabilities, like
Oh,
that do that it's like a day program for like adults that have developmental disabilities. And so I bring some of my more well-behaved animals in to hang with them, like maybe every other month or so I'll go in there, and it's super fun. I really take great joy in that. um I don't do anything as far as any sort of formal thing, because then that's requires like the liability insurance and all that. And I'm pretty sure my speech language pathologist liability insurance, I can't add on like a reptile thing. It would be a whole different, because I have liability insurance, but it's not for this. There's no tarantulas or lizards or anything mentioned in it. Um
it's the insurance thing. It's the keeping the schedule in a
exactly.
spreadsheet. It's just
Oh,
it's so many.
spreadsheet, no. So I my contribution to educational shows is randomly educating people in pet stores, and I fully will invite people to my house to see the animals. I had a couple of the people that got things from 12 Supreme Days of Christmas that were local pickups. Someone came in that got one of my versicolors, and we spent about 2 hours walking around my house talking about all the animals. And then one of the other people who did not win anything this year, who lives relatively close to me, she's about 45 minutes away, messaged me on Instagram and said, "Hey, I didn't win anything, but I just wanted to thank you." And I'm like, "You are welcome to come over and hang out and see my animals. I would love that." And she came over and we had a grand old morning looking at stuff and, talking about animals. So again, that's that community building piece. If money and insurance were not needed, I mean, love my job, but if I had like a trust fund, I would have like a reptile store, big, with an area where we could do classes and community outreach and like summer camps for kids, especially like for kids that wouldn't necessarily financially be able to swing that
Yes.
kind of thing otherwise. But that also did classes on things like bioactive builds, or where you can, or people coming in and talking, like researchers coming in and talking about animals. I'm very lucky because I am pretty social. I feel like I'm at 2 or 3 people away at the most from most of the people that are like would be really knowledgeable about most things in the hobby. So if I don't know it, I know someone who knows it, and if they don't know it, they know someone who knows it. Um, so I feel like if I could do that, that would be absolutely mind-blowingly amazing. We had an old country buffet down the road from us that just closed, and every time I drive past it, I'm like, "Oh man,
Yeah,
that would make the best."
perfect.
Oh, well, and having some of the reptile rescues come in and do like events there and stuff would be so good. But I need a full-time job with, like insurance and everything.
Mhm.
So,
Did we just answer that question I asked earlier about the 5-year plan? I
I
think we did.
wish, I
I
wish.
think we did.
I need to
Carissa,
start remembering to buy my lottery tickets if that's going to be my 5-year plan.
Carissa does say here in the comments that she has a reptile club for kids or for students, and Heather helps her with that sometimes.
Yes, I
Wow.
forgot about that. Yeah, so her
Thank
her
you.
she's a virtual special education teacher. So our whole dinners are very boring because we're always talking about IEP meetings and stuff. Um, I'm like, well, this goal and blah blah blah, and but my poor kids are just like, oh my god, stop. But yeah, she does reptile club with her kids. So one of her ball pythons is kind of like their mascot. They're very excited about that. And whenever they want to try to get her off topic on something, they'll be like, "Can we see one of the snakes? Can we see one of the
Yes.
lizards?"
They're good at that.
Oh, they're so good at that. My kids know that. They're like, "So, do you have any new reptiles or anything?" And I'm like, "I know what you're trying to do. Stop
So
it." And
tell
also
us again what
cats.
you feed snakes.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Outstanding.
Ooh.
Do you have a dream critter you'd
Oh,
love to get?
well, I'm trying to convince my father-in-law, because he loves plants, tropical plants, to let me build like a 6-foot long by like 6 foot tall by 2 foot deep planted
Ooh.
enclosure in his living room and then put a green tree monitor in it. Because I think I fully do not have the space for that in my house.
Oh.
But he loves plants and they do like reptiles. So that would be amazing. All the tree monitors I love. I would, if money and space, no object, yes. Scorpion tails are on my list. And then I would like to have a garter snake colony because, again, communals. But again, I don't have space right now. So I know Russ is hoping that his melanistic garter is gravid. I'm like, maybe 2 litters down the road. So yeah, there's always things. And then, I mean, I love all the tarantulas too. I would have all those. So yes, lots of dream critters.
I like your answer so that it really depends. It really
It
depends
does.
on a
It
lot of other
depends.
things happening.
Mhm.
Are all of your enclosures bioactive? Good question, Angie.
The vast majority of them are, including my spiders, other than the slings, the little guys. My Kenyan sand boas are not bioactive. They're on aspen because they it's really hard to check on them when they're in bioactive. I had one in a bioactive for a while and it was stressing me out because he didn't ever come out. And then I wasn't like, if mice didn't disappear for a couple feedings, I would really, oh my gosh, a Cayman lizard would be really, really cool. Any if I can do it bioactive, I will do it bioactive. I've even thought about making my gerbil enclosure bioactive, but my son is like, you're insane. So I didn't. He doesn't want bugs in his room. I don't know where he came from because I love bugs. I've actually had meetings because isopods, they like to escape. I had a meeting, an IEP meeting. So for those of you who are not in the special education world, that's an individual education plan meeting. So basically you have a student who has like a disability of some kind. You have a meeting once a year to say like, these are the goals that we're working on. This is the progress they've made on their goals. This is what services they're getting. And this is what their goals are going to be for next year. We have to do that meeting every year.
Make it sound so simple and basic.
Well, yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, for me it is because I'm just communication. So
yeah, I know.
but yes, they can be very convoluted. Well, I had a meeting that I had the entire meeting with an isopod in my hand because my dad very calmly came up to me and handed me one that was crawling up the bathroom wall. So I sat there the whole meeting like this because I had an isopod in my hand, which is the joys of working virtually as an SLP. Which was just amusing to me. But yes, it was funny. I don't remember where the tangent we started on that was.
That one has to be called George. I will
George.
hold him.
Yes, I will call him George.
George.
Yes. We don't have any animals named George. That's weird. We've got a Marvin and an Al and a Pete.
Oh, nice.
Oh, what do I consider a large tank?
I think this is the saltwater tank, right? Question we were talking.
I have no idea.
Maybe. I have right now, I have a 10-gallon that has diamond tetras in it. And I have a 40-gallon that has African dwarf frogs and some shrimp and a bunch of little tiny fish in it. Like a bunch of little rasboras and some endlers and some tetras and stuff. So a large tank for me would be like 100 gallons or more would be like a large tank. Oh yeah, morning geckos in the bathroom. Always. I keep finding baby morning geckos in the gargoyle tank, and it's a good thing she's not interested because it's next door. Like the mama morning gecko tank is right next door. So I'm like, you are not smart. You should not be in here. So then I grab them with a net and chuck them in with the babies.
I've got to tell the story real quick. Again, you notice things, I fished for years and years and I could tell, a fish is feeding 50 yards off at 228,
Yep.
So I'm sitting here working on social media and I've got another desk to my right. And it's like something's over there. And I look, there's a baby morning gecko. And I tell you, that tank is escape proof behind me. And sure enough, I just put my hand out and it crawled up, and I just, I called him
they're
George,
funny.
and then I
hugged him and said George.
put him back. And
They're so funny. But yeah, they're so tiny. They get out of the tiniest little, and I shouldn't have my, like the Repticribs that the Tarantula Cribs just came out with
Yep.
are
Yep.
really, just to do a shameless plug for Tarantula Cribs, because Mo
No,
is awesome. The Repticribs would be really nice for them because they don't have any gaps. Like, I love Exoterra tanks. They're awesome. I love the dubia enclosures. I've got a dubia right there. I'm not like brand loyal, but I really do love those. Darren's got some Darren, he's got some good stuff. But the Repticribs are perfect for morning geckos because they don't have any of the gaps. And morning gecko babies, boy howdy, they will find the tiniest little gap and just swoosh their little bodies out through it. So yeah, those are the ones for morning geckos, definitely.
No, thank you for that plug. I had talked to Ryan from Marshall's Arachnids.
Yeah.
At Tinley, and I was saying, I like these, but the vents, and he's just, and I'm going on about, but I keep these, and he's just like listening patiently, like whenever
Ryan's
you're done,
a real one. He's
whenever
great.
you're done. And then he talked about the Repticribs, and it's like,
Bing.
oh, really?
Yeah, Mo, who runs Tarantula Cribs and Repticribs, he is. I talk. He's also in our spider chat, so we talk quite a bit. He is constantly innovating new ideas for new things. He's constantly like, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about this. He's open. He wants to open, or I think it's opening next summer, like a kind of like a small zoo, kind of like Snake Discovery style kind of thing, encounter thing, in St. Louis, where he lives. But he is constantly thinking about new things that he can be bringing out to like improve husbandry. And I mean, I'm a Tarantula Cribs girly. I love them. All my spiders are in Tarantula Cribs except for my little tiny babies, and even those get the sling cribs. But
nice,
there's my shameless plug.
No, thank you. That's what we love, and from such great people too. We've got a question here. Hey, question regarding, and then we've got one more question. Then we'll let you go because this has been a long night for you. A question regarding millipedes, which are the best pets? I only have experience with ivories and rainbows, and the rainbows basically are subterrestrial all the time. Good question.
When I had adult ivories when I first started, they were out a lot. So I really liked my ivories. The African giants are out quite a bit. They don't really bury themselves unless they're molting. From my understanding, mine are still very little. I am not, millipedes are probably the one that I would have the least confidence asking or answering questions about. But in my experience, the ivories are pretty surface active, which is really nice.
Perfect answer. I was thinking the same thing. There's some that you just never see. Smoky oaks, we never saw ours, but ivories, bumblebees tend to be out, but ivories are perfect. Yeah,
they're fun.
Ivories were the one millipede that Crystal would go down and with the geckos, with all the isopods, with all the everything else we're doing, she would run over to the ivories and open the ivory and play with the ivories for a while. So
I hope Crystal knows how lucky she is to have you guys as grandparents.
We're lucky to have you. We're way lucky to have her.
It's been so wonderful to see her grow over the last, how many 5 years that I've been watching now. Like, it's so awesome to see her kind of mature and turn into such an awesome human being. Not that she wasn't awesome to start with, but just what a phenomenal opportunity to kind of learn and to be able to do that kind of stuff. That's just, I would have lost my mind to have grandparents like you guys as a kid.
The whole, play acting with the good cop, bad cop. It's more like bad influence, good influence. So, she'll learn both ways. She'll learn how not to act and how to act the right way.
You need one of each.
Her daddy, though, was really
and
her
dad
is phenomenal.
No, that's awesome. Yep. She's such a delight every time. When I saw the scorpion tail one yesterday, I'm like, I always get excited when she's in the videos because she's just such a fun. You can tell she's such a fun kid.
We need to get her on tape without her knowing when she is scolding and reprimanding, because she will let a gecko have it and warn them about You will not hurt her, and you will be nice to her when I put her in there. It's just hysterical.
That's so
But
funny.
I can never do it without her not catching me.
That's my daughter lecturing our legodactylist about not bolting out. She's like, I am watching you. You better stay in there. I am not chasing you again. And I'm like, Nina, who are you talking to? And she's like, I'm talking to Jay because he is not listening. And I'm like, okay, baby, you let him know.
Yep.
But do you instigate a little bit like I do? You know, Crystal, you're not going to see the female day gecko because the male was kind of picking on the female. So you're not going to see the female,
man.
just to let you know. And then the hands on the hips and
the hands on the hips. Yeah.
Stomp over to the listen, male.
Gosh. That's really funny. I was just cracking up at the names. Squishy and Kirby are like the best names ever. And like I said, my kids name most of our animals too. So like Jay, who is our legodactylus, it's short for jaywalking because my daughter thinks that name like tax fraud. Our other one was arson. We have random names. We've got the mama morning geckos are the Senate. And then we've got the junior senators are the babies. It's very, very random. So kid names are the best names.
Well, we got her past naming everything Crystal, so that was a plus.
Hey, there you go.
Five
animals. Geckos downstairs named Crystal.
Okay, we just hatched another crescent gecko. What are we naming it, Crystal? Okay.
You find something that works, you go with it, right?
That's right. The most important question of the night.
No,
this is deep. This is deep. Do I have two? This is the one. Heather, this is the most important question of all. Waffles or pancakes? This will determine our relationship forever.
Think about it, Frank.
Unequivocally waffles, without
Frank, you got a new best friend.
I mean, it's you have more space to put butter. I'm a Wisconsin girl.
Oh, I love that idea.
You need little bowls for the butter. Pancakes, there's no holes for the butter.
I never thought of it that way because I always load it up and make sure that there's butter in all. I never thought of it like, wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
You know, those little crevices could be used for like little bacon bits too.
Yeah.
Butter.
Okay.
Butter and bacon bits. What extra cholesterol pill tonight? We're good.
503 Menagerie. If you haven't followed on Instagram, and Frank, you've been showing the link all night long, people go over there and jump on and follow Heather on 503 Menagerie. This has been such a fun show. Seriously, I always do this. It's not in a spreadsheet. It's on a Word document. I have a script of about 20 questions. I used one.
Yeah, I kind of, once I start talking about animals, I kind of get up ahead of steam and it's all downhill from there.
You can tell your passion.
I love it. I do love it. And I love the community. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and shoot the breeze with you because you are definitely instrumental in building a really awesome reptile and invert community. So
it's easy when you have passion, and it's easy when you have people like, that are joining us tonight, and certainly with you. Thank you all for all that you do in the community.
Yeah.
You're a blessing. You're an influence. Thank you so much, Heather.
Oh man, don't follow me. Thank you so much. Take
Good night,
care,
everybody.
everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.